Donald Trump appeared on the Full Send podcast with the Nelk Boys, as they're called, for what would turn out to be a strange interview, for sure. And I want to walk through and respond to some clips from this, starting off with early in the interview when you can tell just how hard-hitting the discussion's going to be. Take a look.
When we saw you at UFC too, Dana told us you were coming. We got really excited. And I asked you, I was like, Mr. Trump, do you want to come on the Full Send podcast again? I feel like it's such good timing right now. Like, I don't know, personally, me, I'm watching everything going on here and also abroad around the world. And I just feel like it's such a good time to have you on to speak. Cause like,
Great.
I don't care what anyone says. Like, I don't care about the backlash. Like, I feel like we need you back right now. Like, we need you back in office. And like, I feel like if people have anything against you, they got to put it aside. Cause like, I feel like you're the only one right now that can really fix the problems here and abroad.
Well,
Trump would be a disaster for the problems here and abroad. We'll continue with this because they get into, or Trump does pretty quickly, the subject of nuclear weapons. So take a look at that and then we'll discuss.
it's really nice that you say that. I appreciate it. I know you come from both sides of it, right? You know, you have
A little bit.
You have the little bit left side and you have the little bit right side, and sometimes the strong right side because we have to take care of our country. But we've never, as a country, been in the danger that we're in right now. You have other countries, and in particular Russia, but other countries talking the N word, which is the nuclear word in this case, and you can't use that term. You can't use.
Because there's two N-words, right?
There are two N-words, right? There's
Which
two
one's
N-words.
worse?
They're both real bad, but you can't use the nuclear word. You just can't do it. And if you do it, nobody used it during my term.
So, oh my goodness, you might not understand if you haven't kept up with Trump's statements on nuclear weapons and criticizing Biden over his handling of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, why it irks me so much, Trump's statements on this, because he's repeated it so many times and it's always very similar to that of just the nuclear word. Oh, the N word. We didn't used to use it. Now we use it and it's dangerous. Yes, we know. But you, as someone who is saying you could be a better president than Biden, you'd handle the situation better than Biden, have to outline what you would be doing differently in this admittedly scary moment. So yes, nuclear weapons could be disastrous if they were used. And it's true that is being discussed more now because of Putin alluding to that threat and Putin invading Ukraine, and within the context of that invasion, alluding to the threat. But how would your handling of that reality yield better outcomes than Biden supporting Ukraine, which at the end of the day is what all of this is about? The reason Trump repeats that over and over, we didn't used to use it, now we're using it, oh, it could be terrible, is to say that it's Biden's fault. He never has any interest in discussing Putin being the cause and Putin being the one who initiated the invasion. It's always just, you didn't see in that clip, but we've covered many others, that Biden somehow is to blame and he is mishandling this, when we should be supporting Ukraine within the context of a scary moment, yes, but just pointing at the problem and saying, hey, there's a problem. We're in a scary moment. It could be disastrous, true. But that doesn't at all, that's not the same as pointing at a better solution than supporting Ukraine. Next moment on this same subject.
And once it gets used, the world as you know it will end. And when I see these people talking about global warming, where the ocean will rise by 1/100th of an inch over the next 350 years, where it's going to get a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler. They don't know. You know, we used to be global warming.
They don't talk about it as much, though.
No, they don't talk. No,
Al Gore went into hiding or something.
Well, no, now they call it climate change because they said it's going to get warmer. It was getting colder. Then it was going to get colder. It's getting warmer. You know, they used to say global cooling because they thought the world was going to freeze. That was in the 1920s. They had a thing, global cooling. Then it went to global warming, but that wasn't working. So now they go to climate change because that covers everything.
This talking point of, he's about to connect it to nuclear weapons, by the way, but of, they used to say, sometimes it's going to be too cold and sometimes it's too hot, and they'll point at, hey, there are these extreme cold temperatures, that means global warming isn't happening. No, climate change, being the phenomenon of global warming, is causing extremes. Yes, whether that be extreme weather events being more frequent or extreme cold temperatures. But on average, over time, we're getting a more warm planet, which causes all of these different ramifications.
But your real global warming would be nuclear global warming. That's a warming that will take seconds. And that's a warming that will melt granite. You know what granite is? It's a very powerful, very hard stone. If you take a look at Hiroshima, or Hiroshima as a lot of people call it, Nagasaki, where they used nuclear in a very primitive form, it actually took granite, large areas of granite, and melted it. And now it's like an ice skating rink. It melted into virtual water. And now when it hardened, it was absolutely stone cold level. It melted granite. You could hit granite with a blowtorch and it won't.
All right, so you get the point on that one. And what would you be doing differently? All we hear is, number one, it never would have happened. Hasn't explained what he would have done differently to make sure that Russia didn't invade Ukraine. Number two, doesn't explain how he would magically end it in 24 hours as he continues to repeat. One more moment on this topic, then I promise we'll move on.
The left never likes talking about it, and they should talk about it. And other countries know exactly what I'm talking about, and they would get rid of a lot of their nuclear weapons or their nuclear weapons. You have to do it. It's a level of danger that the world has never seen before, and people don't talk about it.
Do you think that based off your relationship with Putin, that you could convince him to withdraw from Ukraine?
He would have never gone into, we used to talk about it. You know, he was always...
Okay, and then all the stuff we've heard before. Explain how the solution coming from MAGA world of just not supporting Ukraine is more in the interest of peace and stability. Because that won't make Russia stop invading Ukraine. That will just make more likely that Russia is emboldened, and the world has observed the precedent being set that if you threaten nuclear weapons, invade long enough, cause enough devastation, then we'll back off and you can do whatever you want. You can violate the sovereignty of whatever country you like. You can aggress however you like. That is not in the interest of peace. That would be disastrous. But it's just the way that they have to criticize Biden is to say somehow he's to blame for the unstable and scary situation that's been caused by Putin's invasion of Ukraine. It's really, really enraging. But then we get to the subject of DeSantis.
You think that your biggest competition lies within your own party?
Yeah. Like from the people running in the party?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're really fading fast. I mean, it's fading very, very quickly. You have a guy from Florida, Ron DeSantis, who I got in with my endorsement. He was at 3 points. He was nothing. He was not going to win. He was going to lose, and I endorsed him. And then when they asked him not only there, then I got him through the general election. He was running against somebody who at the time was considered very good as a politician. And then when they asked him a few years later, are you going to run against the president? He said, I have no comment. I said, that's not supposed to happen. He was dead politically. I endorsed him and saved him. Had I endorsed, he was losing by like 25, 30 points very shortly before the election. When I endorsed him, he went like a rocket ship. Like
You love that song,
like
huh?
Rocket Man. He went like a rocket. I should call him Rocket Man, but now he's Rocket Man that's crashing. His polls are terrible.
It is true that his polls are going down, but nothing that we haven't heard from Trump there. And then he brags about his, or the song from the January 6th rioters that Trump was featured on.
Senator, you have everybody waiting for me to speak. And here I am, sitting with you, not saying to hurry up, because you're the Nelk Boys, right?
You're the best.
That's pretty good.
You're the best.
You talked about Rocket Man, how you love that song. People don't know this, but you have a Spotify song, don't you?
What?
A song on Spotify, right?
Are you Spotify?
You hit the Billboard charts.
You hit the top of the charts.
Oh, so we did that's right. I had The Apprentice. It went to #1. I did great in real estate. I did great in politics. But the one thing I hadn't done, I always wanted to be Elvis Presley. I hadn't hit #1 on the charts. No, we did a thing. It was actually very beautiful. A version of a very important song that you probably heard, and it was done by the J6 prisoners who have been treated horribly. When you see the way Antifa got treated and so many others that did such destruction and caused death, and these people were treated horribly, and they asked would I do a voiceover. I did basically a voiceover of the song.
And we've gone over that song. If I'm not mistaken, it was the national anthem being sung by the January 6th prisoners. And then Trump sang the Pledge of Allegiance over it. And it did go on the charts. But it's one of the most unbelievable representations of how bonkers American politics is, where a former president, current presidential candidate, is featured on a song where rioters who attempted to overthrow American democracy by preventing a president from having their election certified and stormed the Capitol are being celebrated by this former president and presidential candidate who very likely will be the nominee and could win. Hopefully he won't, but could win. And that's the moment we're in, where he's celebrating because he is the one who riled up these individuals and fed them the very lies that motivated them to attack the Capitol. That's being celebrated by a massive portion of our country. What should be a scar but should be seen as a scar by everyone on the history of American democracy.